Yeah, well, but I liked you right away
Did he tell you that I had said that you should...
That we should make out?
Well, no, it was after that. I just looked at the show and I said,
No.
She is really, really good.
Warren Beatty is 88 years old and finally breaking his silence. For decades, he's been Hollywood's most secretive legend. He's dated over 12,000 women, married only once, and kept his deepest regrets locked away. But now, in a rare confession, he's named the one woman he can't forget. It's not his wife. It's not Madonna or Diane Keaton. The answer will shock you. This woman broke his heart in 1974 and changed his life forever. Today, we reveal who she is and why he still calls her his greatest mistake. Warren Beatty came into the world on March 30th, 1937, in Richmond, Virginia, born Henry Warren Beatty. His home was tight-knit and deeply rooted in the Baptist faith, which shaped the family's sense of order even as they moved between towns. His mother, Kathleen, taught drama at a high school and kept the house full of stories, lines, and rehearsals. She often directed school plays, and her energy around theater left a quiet imprint on her son. His father, Ira, was a psychologist and educator, serious and methodical, moving the family through Richmond, Norfolk, and finally Arlington. His Nova Scotian grandparents, also educators, brought a different rhythm to their lives. This layered household mixed discipline, books, and occasional bursts of creativity. By the time Warren could walk, the idea of performance was already circling him. He wasn't the loud one. He watched, listened, and then mimicked. As a boy, he would sit for hours copying Milton Berle and Al Jolson. He did it in corners, out of sight, building characters without an audience. The family's moves made him flexible, each new school sharpening his ability to read a room. But wherever they landed, he kept to himself, holding tight to this private world of impersonations. The 1950 re-release of the Philadelphia Story struck a chord in him. It wasn't just a movie, it was a signal. Somewhere inside, the future started forming. At Washington Lee High School in Arlington, he shifted gears. Football became his outlet, and by senior year, he was the star quarterback, leading his team to wins that filled the stands with cheers. He served as class president and had the grades to back it up. But even while colleges lined up with 10 football scholarships, he was looking elsewhere. His sister Shirley MacLaine was already shining on Broadway, and her spotlight made him question everything. He turned them all down, every offer. He walked away from football when people thought he'd go pro. He wanted something else, something more elusive. In 1954, he enrolled at Northwestern University. He joined Sigma Chi and took up liberal arts, but it didn't stick. The structure frustrated him. He lasted only a year before leaving in 1955. Acting pulled harder. He'd spent summers working at the National Theater in D.C. as a stagehand, learning the craft backstage. His father, despite holding a Ph.D., didn't stand in the way. He once told Warren that maybe leaving school was a sign he was meant to do something. Warren returned to Northwestern briefly in 1956, just to perform in a campus show. But he knew his classroom was elsewhere. That elsewhere was New York City. At 18, he moved into a small West Side apartment and survived on peanut butter sandwiches and grit. He studied under Stella Adler but needed cash to stay afloat. He washed dishes, played piano in low-end bars across Long Island, and even worked in Manhattan's tunnels as a sand hog. Every job was a lesson. Every shift made him sharper. By 22, he landed his first real TV role. It hit fast. Everything changed. He started with Studio One, playing a background character in The Night America Trembled, which aired live on September 9, 1957. Just 19 then, it was a small part. But Studio One had teeth. It launched careers. Names like James Dean and Grace Kelly had passed through it. Soon came Kraft Television Theater, then Playhouse 90, and by 1959, he was showing up on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. These early credits weren't just filler, they were muscle memory. Combined with summer stock theater gigs, they helped him understand rhythm, pacing, and presence. In 1958, Beatty stepped into A Loss of Roses on stage. The play didn't last, but his performance caught the eye of director Joshua Logan, who arranged a screen test at MGM. In 1959, MGM signed Beatty to a 7-year contract at $1,000 a week. He was just 22. That same year, he met Joan Collins while filming The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone. They began dating, and Beatty packed up for Hollywood. The contract wasn't just a paycheck, it was a bet. He was all in. Splendor in the Grass came in 1961. His film debut. He played Bud Stamper opposite Natalie Wood. The role wasn't simple, and neither was he. He fought director Elia Kazan over the script, demanding more realism and deeper emotion. He asked for scene rewrites, second takes, even third takes. He wasn't afraid of pushing boundaries. Critics called him controlling. Others saw someone chasing truth. The film, set in 1920s Kansas, explored teenage love and mental health. Beatty refused to make it glossy. He wanted it honest. Then came a choice that would define his direction. In 1963, Beatty turned down the lead in PT 109, the story of JFK's wartime heroics. It was a surefire hit, but Beatty wasn't moved by patriotism or box office potential. He chose All Fall Down instead, playing a drifter in a film that critics loved but audiences ignored. That became his pattern. He didn't chase hits, he chased roles that challenged him. That same spirit followed him into Lilith in 1964, where he played a staffer at a mental asylum. Off-script and immersive, he researched psychology at night, stayed in character off-set, and sparked rumors of an affair with co-star Kim Hunter. He never confirmed it, but the whispers stuck. People started seeing him not just as a talented actor, but someone who blurred the line between life and role. Then came 1961's The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone, where he played a seductive gigolo opposite Vivian Leigh. Behind the scenes, things got darker. Leigh, struggling with bipolar disorder, became entangled with Beatty. Later, he admitted feeling guilt about what happened. He said she was vulnerable and he didn't handle it right. Leigh's health declined after the film and her hospitalizations increased. Beatty's charm, often praised on screen, started to show its edge off screen. By 1966, while filming Promise Her Anything, Beatty clashed hard with director Arthur Hiller. He rewrote his lines, ignored cues, and delayed production by nearly 3 weeks. He was also having an affair with co-star Leslie Caron, who called him magnetic but exhausting. Crew members complained about the chaos. Beatty was charming and brilliant, but exhausting. He wasn't just the heartthrob, he was the storm that came with it. His relationship with Natalie Wood began in 1959 and crashed in 1962. After she learned of his flirtations with Joan Collins, she was devastated. Friends said she once screamed that he was everything to her. In 1962, she reportedly attempted suicide. Later, when Beatty tried to convince her to star in Bonnie and Clyde, she said yes, but described feeling cornered by him. Their personal past leaked into the work, adding tension to an already dark story. Gossip followed them for years. In 1963, he was offered a role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but turned it down. He didn't want to be seen as just another rebel. Instead, he made Mickey 1 in 1965, an experimental film where he played a paranoid comedian. He took method acting to extremes, staying in character even when cameras weren't rolling. Crew members said he barely spoke, isolated himself, and unnerved people. The film flopped, but his performance haunted critics. Hollywood didn't know what to make of him anymore. In 1967, he met Julie Christie while filming McCabe and Mrs. Miller. He cast her as his love interest and fell for her off-screen too. Their relationship lasted 7 years, full of love, betrayals, and reconciliations. He proposed more than once, but kept seeing other women, including Goldie Hawn. Christie once said he was the love of her life, but also the source of her deepest pain. Magazines printed their every move, breakups, and makeups. Beatty's life, just like his films, couldn't separate passion from drama. Bonnie and Clyde in 1967. The studio gave him just 40% of the gross instead of a fixed fee because they thought the film would flop. They hated the violence, the sexuality, the script, and the French New Wave inspiration. But Beatty held his ground. What came out of it was a $2.5 million film that earned over $70 million around the world, becoming one of the most profitable movies of its time. The film's bloody climax was stitched together with over 50 cuts in under a minute. Dede Allen fought for that ending. She left the edit room twice over it, but Arthur Penn wouldn't budge. That shootout changed everything. It shattered the old Hollywood system and opened the door for the new Hollywood wave. Beatty wasn't just the lead actor. He was producer, creative force, and the the risk-taker who made it happen, and it earned him his first Oscar nomination. Behind the scenes, casting wasn't smooth either. Natalie Wood turned down the role of Bonnie because of her history with Beatty. Jane Fonda and Carol Lynley were considered. Tuesday Weld dropped out after getting pregnant. That left Faye Dunaway, a newcomer, who begged for a meeting with Arthur Penn. Beatty didn't want her billed equally until he saw what she could do. She fought hard to be taken seriously, and her performance made the film unforgettable. It earned her an Oscar nod too, and launched her into stardom. Meanwhile, off-screen tensions were rising. Beatty started dating French actress Michelle Philippe during the film's promotional tour. Her sudden death in a car crash in 1977 left him shaken. She was just 28. The grief stuck with him. He later admitted it haunted him and deepened his guilt as he bounced between relationships. The film also tore through the Hays Code, the old censorship rulebook. Bonnie stroking Clyde's gun, the violent robberies, the bloody ending, all of it had critics crying foul. Some said it was pornographic. Beatty defended it in interviews, claiming it captured the unrest of the 60s. But behind closed doors, he was using late-night script readings to get close to Dunaway and others. The movie's public controversy only added to the heat already building around his private life. Just a few years later, Beatty signed on for The Only Game in Town in 1970. He made $750,000, while Elizabeth Taylor pulled in $125 million. It was filmed in Paris only because Taylor wanted to be near Richard Burton. The 86-day shoot dragged on, with 10 more days in Nevada. Beatty kept pushing for reshoots, obsessed with Taylor's interactions, paranoid Burton might be interfering. But the movie tanked. It made just $4.5 million, while needing $19.3 million to break even, losing 20th Century Fox $7.5 million. After that flop, he stepped back from movies to support George McGovern's 1972 presidential campaign. When he returned, it was with The Parallax View in 1974. Fueled by anger over Nixon and Watergate, Beatty dove into a political thriller that blurred the line between fact and fiction. It featured real news footage from the Watergate scandal. But in the middle of production, Beatty fired director Alan Pakula and took over himself. The crew was stunned. The release got delayed. The film hit theaters in June 1974, just as Watergate reached its boiling point. Critics were rattled by the tone, but the paranoia stuck with audiences. Beatty's decision to take control became a permanent mark on the project. Then came Shampoo in 1975. Beatty played a sex-driven hairdresser, basically a mirror of himself. He cast Julie Christie, his ex, and Michelle Phillips, his then-girlfriend. He made a move on 16-year-old Carrie Fisher during filming and later bragged about it. She said he rejected her, and he claimed she was disappointed. The set was a mess of real-life drama bleeding into the script. Everyone was watching everyone. The awkwardness wasn't acting. It was Beatty's world folding in on itself. In 1978, Heaven Can Wait became his next big bet. The fantasy film cost $20 million, with elaborate football scenes and custom-built sets. Beatty co-directed it with Buck Henry, but then rewrote 70% of the script without telling him. Henry was furious. He said it felt like Beatty hijacked the film. Still, it became a hit and got 4 Oscar nominations, but their working relationship never recovered. By the early 1980s, Beatty was all in on Reds. It was his obsession. Starting in the early 70s, he researched John Reed's life with an intensity that few actors dared to match. He interviewed over 100 people across the USSR to get it right. That obsession delayed production for years. The budget ballooned to $32 million. He sold his Beverly Hills mansion just to keep the film going. He shot it across 4 countries, used over 200 speaking parts, and refused to cut a single minute of its 195-minute runtime. On set, extras rioted over pay. He demanded 80 takes from actors and let the camera roll long past limits. At the Oscars, he won Best Director, but thanked Julie Christie, calling her the love of his life, in front of his wife, Annette Bening. The film scored 12 nominations, but lost Best Picture to Chariots of Fire. Even Jack Nicholson nearly quit during the chaos. While filming Reds, Beatty and Diane Keaton were in a relationship that started back in 1976. She played Louise Bryant, John Reed's real-life partner. Their chemistry lit up the screen, but off-camera things were falling apart. Keaton found out he was cheating, again, with Julie Christie. Their 5-year relationship ended before the film's premiere. She later said it was bittersweet, exciting, but painful. And Beatty's rumored affair with Goldie Hawn didn't help. She found love letters in his trailer, and the mood on set turned cold. Maureen Stapleton, who won Best Supporting Actress, snapped at him after endless takes, yelling that she wasn't a machine. Still, Reds made $40 million worldwide, one of the biggest earners of 1981. Its left-wing message hit hard, echoing Beatty's failed political run with McGovern in 1972. He poured his politics into the story and wore the chaos like armor. In 1990, Beatty turned to Dick Tracy, another monster-sized project. It cost $47 million to make and $54 million more just to market. He cast Madonna as Breathless Mahoney and then seduced her during auditions. The media exploded. Rumors swirled. Al Pacino confronted him on set. The whole production felt like a war zone. Studio pressure was high, and promotions included 900-number contests that gave away vintage cars. It made over $100 million, but its legacy was soaked in tabloid drama. 1 year later came Bugsy, and Beatty fell for Annette Bening. He proposed on the third day of shooting. They had 4 kids between 1992 and 1999, but even then, ghosts from his past haunted the relationship. He told Bening their chemistry was nothing like what he had with Julie Christie. He had skipped The Godfather in 1972 to play Bugsy Siegel instead. To prep, he met real gangsters and studied Siegel's vision for Vegas. That passion drove Bugsy to 10 Oscar nominations and gave Beatty a new chapter: marriage, kids. But the cracks still showed. In 1998, Bulworth became his most controversial work yet. It was a political satire wrapped in hip-hop. The NAACP criticized it for racial stereotyping. Beatty rewrote and reshot huge portions of it, costing another $5 million. The original budget was $30 million. The backlash overshadowed the critical praise. The film got an Oscar nod for Best Original Screenplay, but its legacy stayed tied to the fury it stirred. He once turned down Forrest Gump in 1994 because he thought it was too sentimental. Instead, he made Ishtar in 1987, a film that became a disaster. It cost $55 million and earned just $14 million in the U.S., costing Columbia Pictures over $40 million. Shooting in the Sahara with director Elaine May led to chaos. Beatty walked away with $5 million as producer. It was the kind of exit only someone like him could make. Unscathed in money, bruised in reputation. Warren Beatty was 79 when he tried to return to Hollywood with a film he had been working on for over 30 years. It was called Rules Don't Apply, and he didn't just star in it. He wrote it, directed it, and personally funded it. The movie had a budget that hovered between $25 and $26.7 million. When it hit theaters on November 23, 2016, Beatty was hoping for one last big swing, but the opening weekend brought in only $1.6 million. After 5 days, it had barely made $2.2 million. By the time the third weekend rolled around, the earnings had collapsed by 93%. It was yanked from theaters completely before the year even ended. By the time it was done, the film had earned just $3.6 million worldwide, not even 14% of its cost. Beatty's demand to include a confusing 45-minute cut didn't help. The result was one of the most devastating box office crashes in modern film. In 2017, a lawsuit followed seeking $18 million in damages for the financial disaster. That wasn't the only legal trouble following Beatty. In 2022, a woman filed a civil suit against him under California's law, allowing old cases of abuse to be revisited. She said that when she was 14 or 15 in 1978, Beatty, who was around 35 at the time, coerced her into sex during the promotion of Heaven Can Wait. She described multiple incidents and said he used his influence to manipulate her. Beatty didn't deny the events outright. Instead, his legal team said the law was flawed. The case was dismissed in 2023, not because the claims were disproven, but due to a procedural block that permanently shut the case. No trial, no resolution, just silence and a rare apology from Beatty, where he referred vaguely to youthful indiscretions. After that, the reclusion deepened. Beatty had already been pulling back from public life after 2020, but by 2025, he barely left his Los Angeles home. A new movie called The Women of the Castle, which he made with his wife Annette Bening, still hasn't been released. Insiders say it's been finished for years, but Beatty refuses to move forward with it. He skipped major family events, including his daughter Ella's 2025 Broadway debut. Friends describe him as fragile, forgetful, and cautious. He worries about being seen looking weak. Some whisper memory issues. Others say it's just privacy. But whatever the reason, Beatty seems trapped in the very kind of isolation he once portrayed when he played Howard Hughes. That fear of regret seemed to follow him everywhere. In the 1970s, The Godfather producer Charlie Bluedorn offered Beatty the chance to produce, write, or direct the movie. He passed. He said the book didn't feel like a film to him. That decision cost him one of cinema's most profitable franchises. The Godfather saga has earned over $1 billion. Beatty later said, skipping The Irishman in 2019 was another miss he couldn't shake. He didn't feel up to it. Over the years, he also turned down Superman, Jack Horner, and countless roles others would have killed for. He always wanted full control, but sometimes that control came at a massive price. When he did appear at the 2022 Oscars, people were shocked. He was 85 and shaking. He could barely get through his speech. Then he vanished again. He skipped everything in 2024, including his daughter's opening night. Friends said he was writing a script about his 1972 campaign for George McGovern. He had once called that campaign the most important moment of his life. But the silence around him grew louder. There was no official diagnosis, but rumors ran wild. Some said it was age. Others suspected something deeper. Beatty's name still carried the weight of legend, but it also carried stories. He once joked in an interview that he had been with over 12,000 women. He brought it up more than once. One of the strangest tales tied him to a rumored 1970s threesome with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. That story spread through Hollywood circles like wildfire, with some saying it led to the couple's divorce. There's no proof, no solid confirmation, but the fact that people believed it shows how Beatty's reputation fed the myth. In 2015, that reputation turned real. A DNA test confirmed that Beatty had fathered a child with a co-star in the 1970s. He never publicly acknowledged the child. The matter was settled privately, but it hit his marriage hard. Annette Bening stood by him, reportedly after they went through therapy. The child's name never surfaced in the press, but the story reminded everyone that even the most guarded lives leave traces. At home, Beatty was always more private. He and Bening raised 4 children: Kathleen, Benjamin, Isabel, and Ella. Despite the public life he led, Beatty kept his family protected. In 2025, when Ella performed Inappropriate on Broadway, he didn't show. He said it was the travel. He said it was the crowds. But insiders said it was vanity. He didn't want people to see him old. And yet, his past still visited him. Even his old flame, Julie Christie, the one who left him in 1974, remained close. She and her husband stayed at Beatty's guest house when visiting Los Angeles. In 2020, he told her she was still the one he measured all by. That honesty caused tension at home. Christie was his mirror, he once said, the one who shaped his artistic voice. In 2025, he sat in a quiet studio and said, "She's still the ghost I can't shake." Their story had started after the 1966 Royal Command performance in London. For nearly a decade, they were Hollywood's most creative pair. They made McCabe and Mrs. Miller in 1971. They made Shampoo in 1975. But when Beatty wanted children and marriage, Christie said no. She wanted freedom. She broke it off in fall 1974 by phone. He was devastated. He had even promised to pay her alimony if they split, even though they weren't married. She refused. She never wanted to be owned. Their last major film together was Heaven Can Wait in 1978. Beatty got 4 Oscar nominations for it, but behind the scenes, it was unbearable. The tension was so strong the crew could feel it. They avoided being alone together. That movie was the end. They never worked together again, but Beatty couldn't let go. In 1982, when he released Reds, he dedicated the film to Christie. That movie won him Best Director. It was the most personal thing he'd ever made, and he wanted her name on it. That wasn't just a tribute, that was a confession. Even 43 years later, in 2025, he admitted he never stopped loving her. He said she was his defiant compass, his final regret. Other wounds didn't stay buried either. In 2023, a lawsuit surfaced accusing Beatty of inviting a 14-year-old girl to the Shampoo premiere after party back in the 1980s. She claimed he manipulated her into months of inappropriate encounters. The lawsuit was allowed under California's special law for revisiting old child abuse cases. But in 2025, a judge dismissed it. Beatty denied everything. He called the allegations lies designed to chase headlines. And yet, the damage was done. Beatty's legend kept fading, not because people stopped admiring him, but because they could no longer reach him. He was there, Somewhere in his Los Angeles home, scribbling ideas, rewatching old reels, surrounded by memories he couldn't shake. And though the cameras had stopped rolling, he never stopped thinking about the one movie he never made, the one where he stayed young, the one where Julie never left, the one where his face never aged.